All right, let's get the show on the road. So, thanks for everyone for joining in, and thanks to Nicole and the board for setting this up. Just a few sort of housekeeping notes before we get into the program. Um, the purpose of these development videos, etc., is to make sure that everyone is on the same page. And this initial um, preseason development videos to try and get everyone a refresher on key laws, key decision points that people have to make on the field. Uh, we want to make sure that every year you're brushing up on the rules. There's, of course, always a few um, additions each season. Right now, we're still running on the 25-26 season, so there's no additional changes yet. We'll see what happens in the fall. But this is just a reminder that everyone should be looking at the game management guidelines that USA Rugby puts out. That's the best little document that you should be brushing up every so often, and using that as your guide stone. And so today we'll have Eve Dorshorst giving her a little bit of a um, mental resilience webinar, some things to think about when you're sort of feeling stressed out and trying to make critical decisions. As a neuroscientist, I can tell your brain does not do well under pressure, and that takes practice to figure out how to slow your heart rate down, how to make sure that you're making the best decisions. And of course, all of that is also um, improved if you're fit. So the fitter you are physically, you can take a lot more strain. And then we've got our resident expert referee Kahlil, who's going to then guide us on some basic reminders of what's key for most of rugby. As always, so we've set up a um, uh, Utah referee email address that you can use for asking questions about anything related to refereeing. All right, next slide. Okay, so um, this is just a reminder that we need all the referees that want to be active to be a registered member of the society. So we this is a new thing. A part of it's we're not asking you to pay us any money. This is just to register so that we can, keep tabs a little bit on who's active, who's actually participating this season, what your contact details are, because every time we send emails out, we get like 10 bounce backs. So someone's email is always not, active anymore. So if you could just do that, it takes a couple of seconds to fill it out, that'd be great. Um, we are, of course, using RefUp for assigning games, so please go into RefUp. You should have an account there. If you do not have an account and you don't know how to set that up, please, email us for sort of the regular updates and updates, on game day, etc. For um, sort of contacting everyone, we're using WhatsApp. So again, if you're not on the WhatsApp group, um, get that info. A lot of this is information is on the website, which has been nicely updated by Nicole. Um, and then the final thing is that we need um, referees to be signed up with USA Rugby as a referee, and this does require a fee. And this has been, of course, something that we've had for many, many years that um, if you want to referee, you need to be part of the USA Rugby, what it used to be called SIP, and now it's run through Rugby Explorer. I think it's $55. I can't remember exactly if it's gone up or not, what that fee is. But what you get for it is a bit of peace of mind that you're insured through USA Rugby. And that means on the pitch, if something happens to you, just like a player, you can use that down the road for insurances. It also sort of gives the referee society a little bit of uh, backup for if things go wrong. Okay, so I guess it's gone up to 87. Is that new? Yeah.
Nope. You, my friend, are registered as admin, so you have the bonus $45 registration instead of as official.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's right. I couldn't remember. Yeah, anyway. So if you guys can if you are really having an issue with paying that fee, you can reach out to us. But we really need everyone to be registered, and it's for a year, right? So for the season, I think the season starts in August or July and runs
August
to
1st.
yeah. So if you're not registered through Rugby Explorer as of now, and you plan to be a referee this spring, uh, please sign up. And then yeah, I guess so. So we are trying to support referees that are going to tournaments out of state and or even development workshops or whatever. So if you want to get some reimbursement or support for that travel, etc., you have to now send us fill in a form that sort of gives out the details there, and that's on the website as well. All right, I think that's all I had. So, unless Nicole, you have anything else,
I don't have anything else. Did Bryce have anything that he wanted to include since he's working on those scheduling?
Yeah, if you get registered with USA Rugby, then it'll make it a lot easier. We'll have a ton of games. We'll average probably around 30 games each Saturday. Um, we'll have Fridays and Saturday games, so need more refs to come out and help. If you have questions, concerns, I'll put my cell phone in. I probably text most of everyone, so if you just text me if you have questions, concerns, and we'll have an amazing season this year.
Jesse, I think you had your hand up, or did you get your question answered?
Yeah, I was gonna ask as a registered player and admin for Haggis through Rugby Explorer. Can I still register as an official
Um,
and an admin, or how does is this going to
Yeah,
be
you should be able
confusing?
to.
Yes,
Definitely,
you
yeah,
are.
I've done it.
Okay,
I've done it before. Where
And
okay,
me
I have
too.
to do it like every single year. So, like, you're good. It just
yeah.
really gives you another option to sign up for the referees union.
yeah.
So
I
it's
just
an
thought I was
extra
like
box to click.
I was like not admin or you do not qualify to center, and I was like, oh,
No, it's just it's during the regular registry. So when we're registering for Haggis and then we click the admin, there's also up
yeah,
underneath that there should be another scroll down section for referee,
cool.
and then choosing the Utah Referees Association. Hello, everyone. I'm back in town. How we doing?
Hey,
Okay, deal.
Eddie.
Yeah, it's okay.
All right, sounds good. Okay, we'll move on, and Eve can take over. Just reminder to mute yourselves until you have a question. All right, thanks everyone.
Okay, just want to make sure everyone can hear me. Would anyone mind giving me a verbal yes or no?
Yep.
Perfect, thank you. And can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect.
Do you want to make that a?
Yep,
Yeah, there
just
you
want
go.
to make sure that it was working first. I apologize. Trying to figure out how to work this again. I got everything in the way here.
Yeah, we're seeing your view now, I think.
There we go. That one's better. All right, just had that top bar for Zoom in the way. Pesky little Zoom. All right, awesome. Now that that's all done. Hey guys, again, my name is Eve Dorshorst. I'm the mental skills advisor for Utah Rugby Referee Society. For those of you that weren't here before or didn't see the last recording, I come here with 15 years of rugby playing experience to include on the Air Force women's rugby team. During my time in the Air Force, I actually taught resilience skills to troops of all ages, of all ranks. And so I use those skills that I taught along with skills that I've used myself in all sorts of situations around the world to include high risk and high emotion situations to develop these lessons. These lessons come from experience, facts, and an honest passion to just try and help with emotional regulation in this sport that I absolutely love. So last week, as Jason mentioned, we did talk a little bit about physical fitness and how that mind-body connection works. And as we all know, our physical fitness requires a lot of decision making. So today, and especially as we go over Rugby 101, I wanted to go over how decision making actually works in our brain and how we can have control over certain aspects of that. Okay, so last week I presented your resilience as a stool, like you can see pictured here. Like we talked about the physical leg last week. This week we're going to be talking about, or sorry, last month. This month we're going to be talking about the mental leg, specifically just that decision-making piece. Now, when we understand that all of our legs are connected, we understand that having a vulnerability in one leg doesn't mean that we're going to topple down. It doesn't break us. It just means that we're going to take a little less weight while that one leg is being repaired. But we understand that it gets stronger through the knowledge that everything is connected. So, believe it or not, as Jason mentioned, decision making is a complex process within our brain. Most of the time, once we become aware of the process, the skill is more like an after action report when you first start doing it. However, the more we practice the skill, the more we control over each step. So, this is kind of what it is broken down in its full process. Step one being be where your feet are. Now, I know a couple of you were at the PNC session, so some of that will be review. Some of you weren't, and that's totally okay because it is the first step, so it's worth going over again. That second step is going to be balance your thinking, making sure that you are looking at things in an unbiased manner. And then that third one is checking your playbook, looking at that root cause of why you make decisions that you make, and are they still serving you? So our goals, as always, is to make sure that you are confident, consistent, and prepared. So what that looks like in the realm of decision making, we want to make sure that you're confident from practice, even after the fact, after something has happened. You continue to practice it, you continue to review it. That gains more and more confidence, becomes an unconscious process at that point. Then you become consistent using evidence-based decision-making processes, and you feel prepared through accurate knowledge on what influences your decisions and what you can and can't control. So again, some of you might have seen this if you were at the PNC session. So I'm going to pick on a couple of you because I would like this to be more of a discussion-based webinar here. So Wade, I saw that you were on there. I'm going to give you a second to realize that I called your name. So
I
Wade,
hear you. I hear you.
perfect. Thank you. So I know that you were there and I know that you've seen this. Could you tell me what this screen is talking about? And could you give me an example of what that might have looked like on the field from your own experience or something that you might have seen?
Oh, you threw me on the spot there, Eve. Oh my gosh.
You can phone a friend if you'd like.
I'm gonna phone a friend.
Okay.
No, I think it all goes to like where are you? Are you paying attention to the situation and the environment? And then how are you reacting? Are you, is it a knee-jerk reaction? Is it through the motions? Are you looking at, you're looking at this from a control perspective, or you kind of, I, I think I'm just rambling on here, guys. But basically, it's are you controlling the controllables? Are you prepared for the situation? Are you comfortable with the laws that you're trying to action and everything like that, so that when you do have to get into the situation, that you're not stressed about what you're doing or anything like that, that you're confident and that. Am I on that right path there, Eve?
You are, Wade, and I'm going to break it down even simpler to just say this is all about understanding that your thoughts control what consequences come from an action that happens. To break it down even further, an action happens, something happens. It is either negative or positive, it is just something in your life that happens. Your brain then associates a positive or a negative thought to that action. And then, based on if it's a positive or negative thought, there will be a positive or negative consequence that comes from that. Something that we talked about at the PNC lesson is something simple as a player starts yelling at you. You know, a positive thought could be, I know what I'm doing. That player is, I don't know what that player's talking about. So I'm confident in my abilities. I know the rules. I know I didn't miss anything. You ignore it. But a negative thought might be, oh, did I miss something? And then you miss the next 5 plays. So this is just talking about awareness. Be aware that your thoughts, the thoughts that you contribute to an action, is what is going to control that consequence later. And something we didn't talk about at the PNC, and what I'd like to go a little bit more into, is the consequences specifically. There are emotional and there are physical consequences that happen from the thought that is put to the action that happens, right? So the emotion is going to be what we feel. That emotion can be either positive or negative, but we're also going to do a physical reaction. We're going to have a physical consequence. That's what everyone else sees. Now, a classic example of this is if you're watching professional rugby, you'll see some type of tuffle. You'll see some type of scuffle happen on the field, and then you'll see two players, rival players, kind of going at it, but they're always smiling, right? And so what we're seeing is that they're smiling, but I'm sure if you heard what they were saying, it probably wasn't anything nice. So that's kind of a prime example of what might be happening here. Emotionally, they're feeling really fired up, but physically, they look like they're smiling. So I'm going to pick on you again a little bit, Wade. If you look at that, what might be something on the field that you've seen happen or that you've experienced yourself where you felt a positive or negative reaction, but physically you were doing a positive effect or a negative action?
Um, I guess I'll throw myself under the bus here and
Accountability is
just be
great.
yeah, brutal honesty, right? Where a coach comes at halftime or at the end of the match and is like, "Hey, why did you make that call?" And I'm like, you know, it was, I'm like, well, that's the call that I made, and I felt positive with that. But, half the time is, sometimes I have a mind of a goldfish where the play happens and I call it and I'm confident with the play and I'm like, okay, let's move on. Let's just get on to the next play and not be bogged down by whatever it is. And so I think from my side, and this might be good or bad, but it's like I just have the confidence in myself that I'm like, hey, that's the call. I'm confident with that call. I'm going to stick by it 100%, and I'm just going to move on so I can be present with the next play that happens and try not to harp on, what happened and if I made a right call or not.
So it sounds like to me that when you get someone that's up in your face, either at halftime or at the end of the game, internally you might be feeling like, oh my gosh, what did I do wrong? But on the outside, you're keeping your face calm, you're keeping your composure calm, your shoulders aren't up, and you're able to talk to someone in a calm voice, just saying, hey, this is a game. I'm here to help. This is what I saw. Is that
Absolutely.
accurate? Perfect. Absolutely. So just understanding that the thought that you put towards the action is always going to control what happens next. So if you are aware of that, you have control over it and you can practice it. Now, diving a little bit deeper, being aware of your actions that lead to the thoughts is the first step, right? The next one is making sure that your thinking is balanced. Now, we see this play out in rugby absolutely perfectly, especially when we're watching those professional games when TMO is called. The refs will literally stop the game. They will examine the evidence. They will check for any kind of double standards, making sure that they're looking at it in an unbiased manner. And they'll even phone a friend. They'll talk to their ARs. They'll talk to their TMOs. So that's something that's incredibly structured within rugby that I absolutely love. But we don't always have TMO available. So, Jeff, I'm going to pick on you because I see that you're here. Jeff, can you tell me a time when you wish you had had TMO that you were able to use this process on the field, maybe during a high school game or littles or anything?
Every time I step on the field. Um, I don't remember anything specific. I mean, like this weekend, down in St. George, there was a couple times where uh, I was I had made a call and then I would talk to my ARs. I stuck with the call and then I would talk with like Mike Braun was one of them that was down there and he would AR for me. And so, I'd go through it, but this is what I saw. This is what I called. Let me just double check that he saw the same thing. And for the most part, we were on the same page. So
Perfect. Yep, that's exactly what you can do. You don't always have to have TMO that pulls up a video and says, hey, this is what happened. You have enough people there that are there to support you. You have your ARs. Sometimes you have your fourth ref. You are allowed to do that if you need to. This can also happen after a game. This can also happen just in your regular life. Seeing if you are seeing something from an unbiased point of view, and it is okay to ask someone, hey, this is what happened, and this is what I'm thinking. Would you think the same thing if you were me? Or would I judge this person the same way I would judge myself? These are just ways to literally make yourself understand that you are thinking from things from an unbiased manner. You're gaining all that information, you're putting the correct thought to it, and then proceeding forward the best that you can. Now, a critical part of the balance your think. Thank you, Jeff, by the way. Think a critical part of balancing your thinking is making sure that you're not falling into cognitive traps. Now, Jason mentioned that we needed everyone registered, right? Part of that registration was seeing a survey that Nicole sent out, and in that survey, it talked about, hey, do you have any affiliations with any other teams? So the reason why we ask something like that is for something like a cognitive trap that might happen on the field. So say that you're a coach for a team that you are also reffing. You understand that your team has been working really hard, they make mistakes, things happen. All of that's unconsciously in the back of your mind. So you see something happen on the field where if it wasn't a team you were working with, more than likely you'd blow the whistle. But because you use all of those things going on in your brain, you're like, you know what, they got it, they got it. It's sometimes not even a conscious thought, but it is a cognitive bias still. So, in order to just make sure something like that doesn't happen, that's why we ask those questions to make sure that we're not having someone that's affiliated with a team that might have a cognitive bias step on the pitch and then try and ref the game. Not to say that everyone can't, but it usually helps to just remove the barrier. Now, some of these other ones are pretty self-explanatory, but something like all or nothing, is it always something or is it never something? So if you're thinking about a situation and how to act on it, be aware of words like always and never, because usually that means you're falling into the all or nothing cognitive trap. There's also the blaming others. Hey, I can't do this because they're doing something. Again, we've already established your thoughts are what control your reactions or what control your consequences, not anyone else's. You are in control of it, not anyone else. And the same as blaming yourself. You can say, oh, well, I just can't do this, or oh, it's all my fault. It's not always all your fault. There's usually something you can do to change the situation. And the most common one there is mind reading. And I say mind reading times two because we're all guilty of it. We're all guilty of assuming that someone else knows what we're thinking or that we know what someone else is thinking. And this is going to happen all the time. So know that you can't always avoid a cognitive trap, but try and use that after action report and see if you might have fallen into a cognitive trap. And then you use that information to be better next time. That's the point of this skill, is just using it over and over and over again until these become second nature. So the third step and final step in decision making in this context is to check your playbook. So think of this as all the things that have happened in your life, they compile your playbook. They are how you see the world. They are the lens that you see the world through. These are the things that develop your shoulds. So things like kids should always respect their elders, or children should be seen and not heard, or everyone should go to the gym. All of these things are in the back of our minds. They are the root of why we make decisions the way we make them. So, for example, I was a really angsty teen, like a very angsty teen. So my mood was usually pretty combative at all times. Had a rough upbringing, all the things, right? So whenever something would happen, my thoughts would be led by anger, which didn't always result in a positive consequence. It took a lot of self-reflection and checking my own playbook to see that the anger wasn't serving me. It wasn't giving me the relationships I wanted or helping me obtain the goals that I wanted. And I certainly didn't want to listen to anyone either. So sometimes when I was playing a game, it didn't work out so well. So we've all run into something like this. I know Mike is on the call as well. If I can pick on Mike for a little bit, Mike Dominguez, if I can pick on you a little bit, is there any time on the field where something that you think should have happened or how you think someone should have acted may have interfered with a decision, or you noticed it did and then you were able to correct that, especially when working maybe with the high school teams?
Yeah, sure. So I think it was 2 years ago, I want to say, I had called a penalty against a certain team, and the team did not like that call. In fact, they were so upset, one of the players decided that while he was saying I was blind, he decided to shoulder check me. So obviously, that is absolutely inexcusable to even touch a ref. So I blew the whistle, automatically red carded him, and I really had to check myself the rest of the game to not continue to punish that team for that player's behavior. Because in my mind, that player's behavior is a reflection of the team's culture. So I had to stop myself from doing that because rugby is a 15-man sport, 15-woman sport, and one player's actions is not necessarily reflective of the whole team.
I'm going to interject there and say for the coaches that may watch this, this is a huge point. Um, if you have players shouting at you as a referee, if you have coaches shouting at you as a referee, you're not doing yourself any favors because I will think, God damn, these guys are really annoying the shit out of me, or like they don't know the rules. And that, even if I am doing what Mike is doing, to say to myself, okay, I can't punish the players because people are, individuals are doing X and Y. But just as Eve said, we still have this unbiased, this unconscious bias that creeps in. And so, it's never helpful for for a player or a coach to back chat, shout, argue. It's just not going to help you. And that's just something that the coaches should really instill in their players and in themselves, because again, it can escalate, it can backfire, and the referee is only human as well. And so this is just a reminder that we don't want to see that in the game.
Really appreciate that, Jason. Thank you so much for that example because it leads right into the next part of checking your playbook. It's There are always warning signs, as we heard. Mike, you talked about there was a warning sign. You had to see your blood was boiling. You're like, oh man, I really had to make sure that I'm not going to put all of this anger onto the whole team. Jason, you talked about it too, right? There is always warning signs. Your body, your mind, your feelings, everything will give you warning signs that you might need to check your playbook. You might need to check yourself before you have a reaction. These are some examples of that. You might have an uncharacteristic reaction. And again, a lot of these are going to be after the incident has happened. It's also something that if there are coaches on the call right now, you can talk to your players about after a game and really try and get to the core of why did you react so harshly to that call? What else is happening there? This is a great way to open up those conversations. This is why rugby is so wonderful, is that we have that type of community where we can talk about those things and we can help those in our community that might be dwelling on a problem and really work through it. Why were you feeling that way? Why were you thinking that way? Why did you react that way? And get to the core issue. And that way they can be better in the future, whether they be a ref, whether they be a coach, whether they be a player, anyone in your life can benefit from checking your playbook. Is it something in your past that just is no longer serving you? So I really appreciate that you guys all brought up those examples. And this is a great discussion if we want to continue it later. The final point with checking your playbook is something that we have touched on a couple times here. If there's anything I want you to take away is understand that everyone is their own main character. So we have no idea what might be going on in other people's minds, in their homes, in their hearts, and they bring all of that to the field. So therefore, the best way to check your playbook, that final step of decision making, is asking yourself, what is important now? And I will say I stole this from Mike because he said that Haggis does it. So I thought it was nice and I put it in here because it says it really well. So thank you, Haggis boys, for doing that. Um, some keys to making sure that you are doing what's important now is contributing to ignorance rather than malice. So when something happens, don't, except in Mike's situation with someone actually shoulder checking you, don't assume that what they are doing is trying to hurt you, that they are intentionally trying to hurt you, that their words or actions are intentionally trying to hurt you. Instead, think of it at they just might not know how to emotionally regulate themselves. They might not know what's going on with you or what's going on with their team. There's a lot of things that especially kids aren't aware of yet because they just don't have the prefrontal cortex that is fully developed yet to make those rational decisions. But for us as adults, especially as refs and as coaches, it's our job to guide them and to show them that, hey, not everything is a fight. So it leads me to my second key to success on how to establish what is important now. Um, you're all a team out there, including the ref. The refs especially are ensuring that there's an accurate game of rugby being played and it's safe. So when something happens, like Mike said, it's not to punish anyone, it's to educate. So you care. That's why you're out there. Coaches, players, refs, we all care about this game. That is why we are out there. So treat everyone like a teammate, not your adversary. And that is going to be the best way that you can make decisions. What is best for the team? What is most important right now? So as I said at the beginning, as Jason said as well, decision making is a very complicated process. It was a lot of information thrown at you. But if you can just remember those three steps, you're aware, you're diving deeper and making sure you're balanced, and then you are getting to the root of the problem. You're making sure you understand why am I thinking the way that I am thinking? So again, this was talking about the mental leg of our resilience tool, specifically decision making. And at the end of the day, we just want to make sure that you are confident from practice, even if it's after the fact, no matter how many times it takes. You're consistent in your evidence-based decision making, and you're prepared through accurate knowledge and what influences your decision and what you can control and what you can change. So I'll be sending out a review document as I did last time with just the cliff notes of everything here. And I just wanted to say again, thank you to the Society for seeing value in the topic. Thank you to Kahlil for letting me kick off the session. And I will be here if anyone has any questions or if anyone would find value in any of this to anywhere else. And I see Kahlil corrected me in attribute, not contribute. But thank you so much, guys.
Thanks very much, Eve. Are there any burning questions for Eve? Otherwise, we'll move to Kahlil. All right, Kahlil, take it away.
Hello, everyone. Happy Black History Month. Yeah, please don't contribute to the ignorance on the field. There's already plenty of that going on. Bear with me while I share my screen. We are going to be talking today. Actually, let me undo that. We're going to be talking about checklists because no matter how long you've been in this game, you are going to hear about checklists over and over and over, and it will, speaking for myself, it seems boring and overused. Why are we always talking about checklists? Well, the fundamentals are always going to be the foundation of how we get down, right? You'd still need your stool needs, thank you, Odie. Your stool needs the four legs, right? If you have a stool with one leg, it's going to fall over. If you have two legs, it's going to fall over. Three, you're probably going to fall over anyway, right? So if we can get the foundation rock solid and occasionally review to make sure that our stool doesn't have any termites living in it, then we can always have a strong game. So we're going to be talking about checklists, three in particular, maybe a fourth if I'm feeling froggy. Oh, I needed to do this for the third time because I'm an amateur, unlike Eve, who's a professional. Here we go. Third time's the charm. You can all see my screen. Yes. Someone say
Yep.
yes.
Yes.
Going up.
Fantastic. Let's push this button. All right. Some of you might have seen this presentation or a version of this presentation before. I apologize if that is the case. So, some reasons to build a checklist include these things. As we go through our lives, we have checklists that we perhaps have formed unconsciously. For example, when you tie your shoes in the morning, you're likely not thinking bunny ear, loop them around, pull. It's just a thing you do unconsciously. And then just sticking with that shoe tying example, if something happens to when you get to the pull, one loop is too long, one loop is too short, it falls apart altogether. You can go back and, well, did I loop, whatever, pull? Yes or no, and then make your adjustments from there. But it was based in the ability to, or sorry, it was based in the fact that you have this baseline structure for how you go about tying your shoes. You tie your shoes every day. You can always tie your shoes no matter what. That would be the repeatable bullet. As far as diagnostics, if something goes wrong, you can go back through and was the mistake and decide if the mistake was due to poor checklisting, poor processing, or as in a foundational issue, we need to go back and change how we do things from the beginning, or was it just an in the moment issue where perhaps you were distracted, um, or gave too much attention to one thing instead of where you needed to be in that moment? Eve, I'm going to unshare again. Can you please tell us a little bit about putting you on the spot? Can you tell us a little bit about taking a conscious process, a conscious effort, and sliding it into the subconscious and why that is important?
Absolutely. So if you think of your brain as a hand, and Jason, I'm not going to be very technical. This is going to be for us regular folk, not neuroscientists. So don't come at me. All right. So you think of your brain as your hand and your amygdala, the thing at the base of your skull here, just like the base of your hand, that's going to be right here. This is going to be your instinct part of your brain. This is going to be the thing that controls your fight, flight, freeze, or appease. That's going to be that lizard brain, that initial reaction, right? Our prefrontal cortex is the rest of our fingers. They wrap around our amygdala. Now, it's the connection. Again, Jason, don't come at me. This is simplistic. um, when something happens, our amygdala takes control, especially if it is a harsh reaction. If it is something that elicits a very sharp emotional response, right? That's going to make this amygdala swell, which then disconnects our prefrontal cortex, our decision making, our analytical part of the brain, the part that everybody says, you don't develop until you're 24 or 25, longer for guys, of course, but regardless, that's the part where the critical thinking comes in. So we're running off of base emotion. When we're running off of base emotion, our body goes into what it remembers. So like Kahlil says with the tying of the shoes, if we tie our shoes over and over and over again, we've developed that muscle memory. And so if something like that happens, our body already knows what to do, so it's going to automatically do it because we've done it so many times. So usually that is what's going to happen. Now, of course, there are different circumstances for traumatic things, but that's not what we're going to talk about here. What you can do though is when you need to get that critical thinking part of your brain back connected, the one that's in control, the decision-making part of your brain, you want that back into control. You want to uh, 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 Sorry, I apologize. Got distracted. So you want to make sure that that gets unswollen, that gets calmed down a little bit, so the cortisol comes out of your body and you can actually start thinking straight again. But why it's important to move something from a conscious part, that critical thinking part, to the unconscious part, is making it muscle memory, making it so no matter what happens, you will know what to do, and you do it automatically without thinking about it. So then you can do it in any situation. And I hope, Khalil, that's what you're thinking of.
That was way, 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 way better than I would have said it. So thank you very much. As I go back to sharing my screen, subconscious processing, everything that Eve just said. And then the safety net also actually relates to what you just said, which is to say whether you're refereeing an age grade game, a college game, men, women, children, doesn't matter. The checklist will run through in the same order every single time, no matter what. So if it's raining or it's cold or you're tired or what have you, you don't have to critically think. You can just use that muscle memory. We are going to talk about, like I said, three, but to build the checklist, I think there's only three. Yes, three questions here. I don't think non-negotiable is supposed to be written that way. It doesn't matter. Generally speaking, who is involved in the event? We will be talking about the breakdown, the scrum, and the lineout. But this can also be done for foul play, for kickoffs, for restarts, for speaking to the captain, for speaking to players. Any part of the game can be built into a checklist if you want it to be. So, who is involved in that event? What do those people need to do, or where do they need to be? And you're looking at all the people who are potentially involved, everything that's potentially required of these people, and then of that list, what is non-negotiable? That is your checklist, ideally in order. So we'll talk about the breakdown first, the tackle and the ruck, and let's see. This is what I recommend you have as your checklist, in this order every single time. Now, as you read through this, if you think to yourself, that doesn't make sense, here's what I do, here's what I've been told, and if you have a question, please drop it in the chat or unmute and speak up. And I will justify all of this. Why ball carrier held and brought to ground? That's the definition of a tackle. You cannot have a breakdown unless there has been a tackle for the most part. So once the tackle is complete, then we can worry about the priority, first priority people, the tackler and the tackler assist. If either one of these two people is in the way, then nothing downstream is going to work well. The ball is going to be slow. There are going to be too many bodies on the ground for you to officiate effectively. Calls will be confusing. You're going to miss the first infringement. Get the tackler and or the tackler assist out of the way, and everything else can be better in terms of ball availability being faster. Next up, the arriving players for either team. That would be the jackler, the poacher, if you will, and then the support player for the ball carrying side. They must both be on their feet coming through the gate, through their respective gates. And the ball carrier is last because the potential poacher is the timer for the ball carrier's actions. Meaning, if a ball carrier is tackled in the middle of the field, nobody is around, and there's no attempt to poach the ball, the tackler is just laying on the good side of the breakdown, on the good side of the tackle. The tackler is laying there, and nobody approaches the breakdown. It's not written in law that the ball carrier must exercise their options within so many seconds. When do those options have to be exercised? When someone attempts to play the ball, whether it's an attacking player or a defending player. That goes to the contest and continuity part of the game. And that's it for the breakdown checklist. Are there any questions? Any burning questions? I don't see anything in the chat. Anyone want to unmute and speak? Okay. Now notice that nowhere in the previous slides have I said that the checklist is dependent on the score or where on the field we are. So make sure, generally speaking, if you're going to be, because you are going to be accurate, you're going to be accurate all the time. If a team is up by 100, their tackler needs to roll away quickly. If a team is down by 100, their tackler still needs to release and roll away quickly. So make sure you are consistent with your checklists in terms of in order every time, but also consistent in terms of your decision making throughout the game. Moving on. Here is an example of what it might look like. There's going to be several breakdowns. It ends up being a try, I'm pretty sure, for BYU. So sit back and watch.
And Perry looks to go quick. They look to move the space.
Great hands by Parry there. That ball was really low and good catch.
McKay Johnson carries into the middle.
Taken down on the 5-meter line.
They need some support on that
Billy
rock.
Tenney getting into it as well. Gets a good 3 meters for the team. Boys
And McKay
going
Johnson
quick
takes
off
it
the
up.
rock.
The scrum half went to, I think that's one of the parries, the Dylan pair maybe. Anyway, the scrum half was ready to play the ball. The ball was available. If there was no one trying to poach the ball carrier did not have to do much. But because of where we are on the field, Blue wanted quick ball. They got quick ball whenever they wanted it. So that would be a successful running through of the checklist through however many breakdowns those were. And make sure you don't have any questions, comments, or concerns. Okay. Okay. This one is a bit longer. There's just more stuff to set up. But with the line out and with the scrum, which will come after this, all of this, except the last one about the players pushing and grabbing, everything is pretty much in your control. Meaning, the thrower being on the mark, for example, you can look, is the thrower on the mark? If yes, fantastic, move on to the next step. If no, move the thrower over to the mark. Is there a 1 meter gap? If yes, move to the next step, so on and so forth. The 2 and 2 here is referring to the non-throwing hooker. The receiver for both teams, of course, is optional. The throw-in team, of course, determines how many players are in the lineout. The throwers can have more than the non-throwing team. The non-throwing team can match or have fewer. Everyone not participating is 10 meters back. And then for the credibility of the throw, review your game management guidelines, as Dr. Shepard said. But if there is a contest, the throw must be straight. If there is no contest, the throw does not have to be straight. Once the line has begun and players are competing in the air, then this last bullet point comes into place. If the previous 7 steps are done in order and they're done correctly and consistently, it is much easier to see who is doing what in the air. Oh, hello. In terms of the players grabbing, pushing, and so forth in the air. Here is an example of what a well put together lineout might look like. Notice the referee needed her non-throwing hooker to be closer to 2 and 2 instead of 2 and 1. And she gave her a little admonishment after the movement. This is from a few years ago. I don't know if the throw is straight. Okay. And that's what a lineout might look like. Any questions on the lineout before we move on to the
Hey,
scrum?
Kahlil.
Ooh,
Yeah,
yes.
I got one. So maybe it's a double question. With a short line out, so at the front of the line out or a line out that goes over the 15, it still has to be straight. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah,
Yes,
so it can't
thank you.
be directly to the player in the front or off the center at the back. And then the next question would be, can you clarify the stepping into the gap? Just some clarity on that with the line outs have been set, the lines are set, and as the guys go up, they're closing that 1 meter gap. Can people step into it? Is that allowed, or do they have to keep that gap? And just get a little bit of clarity on that, please.
Great questions, Wade. So first for everyone, as I said, if there's a contest, both teams go up, then the throw must be straight. If there is no contest, so only one team goes up, throwing team, hopefully, then the throw does not have to be straight. If, however, the ball is thrown just 5 meters, so to the front person, the OD on the field, then the throw does have to be straight.
But,
And then if the oh, what?
oh, I just had another question. You can finish.
Okay. And if the ball is thrown over 15, perhaps to the Jesse, is he still here? Then the ball has to be straight. So 5 must be straight. 15 or beyond 15 has to be straight. If there's a contest, has to be straight. As far as stepping into the gap, what should happen is that the two jumpers stay where they are and jump this way. But that is very difficult for teams to execute. And so what they'll do is step in and then jump straight up. Is that legal? No. Is that the hill you want to die on? Also no. So if we want this, but instead we're getting this, you could ask this team here to jump, like not close the gap. If they persist, you could, I believe it's a free kick. Don't quote me or someone fact check me. Um, or you could potentially just accept that this team cannot execute a proper line out lift. If you do decide to penalize, then again, you have to be willing to do that the entire game, hopefully with some management to say, hey, don't close the gap. If you are not feeling like penalizing it and you instead want to have a more outcome-based decision, then you can decide, did the team that won the ball, sorry, the team that was supposed to win the ball, did they win it? And also, by stepping over and closing the gap, did they disrupt in the air? Was there a dangerous situation created by this movement? So this is perfect. This is okay. This is not okay, right? So as long as they don't cross over, bump in the air, land on the lifters, then we can probably just keep it moving. Wade, did that answer your question?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Kahlil.
You're welcome. Odie, what you got?
As far as for us, because I've seen, I guess, ref placement during it, because a lot of times, especially like as a player, with the not straight being called, where I feel like the ref is out of position because they're not down the tunnel, but a lot of times, sometimes they'll cheat towards whoever's throwing the ball in, more so going in the offensive line, where I don't always feel like it's the best angle. To see the not straight, is there like a protocol on where exactly we should be to be observing that?
Great question. So these are now the jumpers again. These are their hands. Right, these are their hands. If their hands are sort of straight up, then you can see the straightness of the hands no matter where you are in relation to the tunnel. If the hands, you can see therefore the angle of the hands into the tunnel or the angle away from the tunnel. So the short answer is you can watch from wherever you are on the field, the receiving team's hands to see, was it a straight up, probably not straight, assuming the contest, and they catch it kind of here, above them, of course, versus catching it out here in the middle of the tunnel or away from the tunnel. But keep in mind that if the team steps in and then goes up, their hands are going to be straight up. So you have to be cognizant of where they start, where the jumpers start, and then where their hands end up. On that note, though, I do not recommend standing in the tunnel because you restrict your vision for everything except the throw. Staring down the tunnel, you can't really see those backs or those backs. And when the bodies come down, you'll have a tough time seeing if there's any obstruction by the throwing team. You'll also have a tough time seeing if there's early contact on the lifters by the non-throwing team. Odie, did that answer your question?
Yeah, and it gives me a point to look at. Like instead of just trying to observe everything, one smaller part to look at is just the hands and how they receive the ball.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Great questions. Anyone else on the line out?
So you would recommend being more in the position where the ref was in that video, in the 5 meter channel?
Yes, either where the referee was or at the back of the lineup, but in that same position relative to the middle of the lineup.
Okay, gotcha.
Hey, Kahlil, on when the ball gets knocked out of bounds and they want to do a quick throw, I know it needs to be 5 meters. What makes where it's kind of a dead ball before you can do so you can't do a line out? I mean, a quick throw. Is there any like definition of
Well,
that?
yes, there is, and it is found for all of you in the law book or the law book app. But I will tell you because you don't have your phone handy, I'm sure. If the ball is touched by by a person outside of the person who brought the ball into touch and the person throwing it into touch, if there are two players from either team at the line of touch, that establishes the line out. And was there another one? Uh-oh, maybe I need my law book.
Because if two people there to form it, if it touches somebody else,
Yep. I
or
mean, that
if
might
it
be
touches like a spectator or something.
right, which would be someone else. So those might be the only
Yeah.
two things.
Okay, that's what I figured, but I just want to review it.
Yeah. And the quick throw for everyone does have to go 5, has to go 5 through the air, and it does have to go laterally or backward.
So
Any,
Kahlil, just reading the law, yeah, it's got to be the same ball. It
yep,
cannot be touched by anybody.
yep,
Line out hasn't been formed, and it's got to be in line with or behind where it went into touch.
fantastic. All right, let's get back to the presentation. Good question, Jill.
I got one quick one, making sure that
So
we're
do
all
I.
calling this the same. The new law that was put in recently of if the defending team does not lift, then there's basically no straight call, or there's no straight call, right? Well,
Correct.
what happens if they throw to the front and the defending team lifts the back? So there was no chance of a contest whatsoever, but it wasn't straight. Should that be a not straight call, or is that a play on under the new law?
Play on is the short answer.
I agree with that, but that's not what's in the rule book.
That is not at all what's in the law book. The letter of the law says if anyone lifts, then the throw must be straight. The spirit of the law, however, was put into, or the law was put in to remove an extra reset and more downtime when one team was not interested in competing. And the rugby is a game of competition, of course. So
Perfect.
if the team in the back, or sorry, if the jumper in the back goes up, yes, that is a lift, but that is against the spirit of this new ruling, and therefore play on.
I have, just for everyone's reference, I have personally heard coaches say and coach their teams, just lift the back guy so that we can draw the call.
Oh, that's
I
bad, coach.
told them,
Lift the
guys, that
front.
is not right. So just something for us to be aware. I'll be aware of. That's all I had.
Good stuff, y'all. Good stuff. Okay, moving on to Scrum. There's that acronym ASBP, ASBP. It stands for alignment, stability, alignment, stability, binds, and push straight. I should have put a parentheses S after the P. And that is the goal for the setup of every Scrum, to get the two sides aligned correctly, get them stable, get the binds right, and then to push straight. How do we go about that? Via a checklist. Yes. So on the Scrum, excuse me, on the crouch, these are the things we should be looking for. The hookers set the space and the alignment. So the A for the ASBP. And then notice that the break foot is here and the scrum needs to be stable before you move on to the next step. Similar to the line out checklist, everything here is in your control. Meaning, if you notice that the hookers are straight in front of each other, head on head, don't move on until they are both left of the mark. Then once the players come down, if they do a pre-crouch, before you say crouch, if they crouch on their own, and you see that players are head over shoulder, for example, don't move on. Get them to back up a bit, right? If you don't see a break foot, don't move on. If they are not stable and stationary, you get the point here, don't move on. Once you do move on to the bind, know how your props are supposed to bind, know what it's supposed to look like. Notice again, the break foot is here. Notice again, that the scrum needs to be stable and stationary. Just like with the crouch step, if you see something that is not right, do not move on. But if you do move on, assuming you see everything is to your liking, you would say set. They come together. There will be a period of equalization. Once they reestablish their stability, then the ball can come in and then you can move on. Similar to the lineouts, if all of these things are done well, if all of these things are done correctly and consistently, the potential infringements that will come with the competition at the scrum will be easier to see. You will not, for example, have to guess as to whether or not the non-put-in team was leaning on the put-in team because the break footses would have been in place. You won't have to worry, you won't have to guess, did this elbow drop or did that elbow drop, because both elbows will be in a good place. See bind point number 1. You won't have to worry about if you, as the referee, called things too quickly, because you're not going to move on until the scrum is stable and stationary. I think I saw a question or a comment or a concern. Oh, bye, Jesse. Moving on to the what this might look like. Oh, did someone have something to say? Nope. Okay. This is a pre-break foot. But notice in going from step to step, even told the 8-man to tuck in before going on to the next step. And what did we have? Full scrum with good ball out. Here is another example. Same referee. It's not playing. Okay, well, trust me, it was going to be a good one. Okay, it's not playing. Well, I'm sure you get the point. Make a checklist. Stick to your checklist. Study your checklist. I asked Eve to talk about the subconscious stuff, and she mentioned decision making, critical thinking going into subconscious via repetition. So one way to have things become subconscious with checklists is to write them down. This is my referee notebook. It has all my game notes in it. Game notes are in it. I know you can't see it, but trust me, game notes are here. In the back of it, I have written down all of my checklists. There's a lot in here, excuse me. Written down all my checklists. And so before a game, if I'm worried about how the scrums might go for this game, if I'm worried about how the line out to maul might go in this game, whatever, I can reference this as a reminder. In terms of another way to get it from conscious to subconscious is to just watch rugby. Six Nations is going on. France looks amazing. Super Rugby is going on. There's high school games coming up. Collegiate games are going on. If you're registered with USA Rugby, as Dr. Shepard said you should be, you have access to the Advantage. And in Advantage, you can watch games from all over the country going back many years. So if you can watch a game, whether it's your game or someone else's, and pick a phase, the scrum, for example, and as you're watching the game, is this referee going through crouch and all the sub points, bind and all the sub points, set and the sub points? Then you get more acclimated to what it should look like, but then also what it should not look like. Do that enough times, it goes into your subconscious so that when it comes to your game, instead of thinking, was a tackle completed? Did the tackler and tackler assist, release, and roll away? Ball is gone and you're standing behind. So if you can get it to the subconscious, these things just happen, just like tying your shoes. You don't have to think about it. And you can take that mental bandwidth and put it toward management or reading the game, its flows, where it's going now, where it's going after that. In conclusion, checklists, do them. If you have any questions, though, about any checklists, let me know. If you have any questions about the thing you just talked about, let me know now. And if not, I'm done.
I ask a quick question about the scrum real quick.
Yes, please.
So I see this a lot, especially in like the younger rugby, where there's one team has a more dominant scrum than another team, or just in general. How do you tell when one team is pre-pushing and one team is just not holding their weight?
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Because going back to the checklist, if you wait for there to be stability, like everyone has, the 8 people over here have stopped moving, 8 people over here have also stopped moving, then it will be easier to see a lean before the ball comes in than it would be to watch a pullback. Also, you have to watch scrums to see this that I'm about to describe, but a team that cannot hold up to their opposition, they fall in a certain way that is different than being leaned on. If you are if you're just too weak, then you almost crumple versus a staggered, like if someone pushes you, you stagger back. That would be more of the lean, the pre-lean, versus a crumpling is simply they're bigger, stronger than us, and we can't do anything about it. But you really have to see it to understand what I just described. Dr. Shepard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd even recommend like watching it almost like a dam giveaway, where you feel the pressure there, and then it might just go all at once. As a front row speaking, where there might be like an initial like stop, and then you can see literally just the pressure and the weight and everything else kind of giving way where the dam had its last sand. So it's almost like a hesitation, and then just the water comes flooding through.
So if we run into that in the season where one's just one way more dominant and say like a 7th and 8th grade game, would you say, hey, let's just not push because our scrums are just a complete mess? Or maybe we're saying like a 9-10 game or something like that. Would you just get rid of the push if one team is just not even close to the same level?
I'm going to let one of the administrators answer this fully, but I would guess that if there's a safety concern, if you can find a safety concern, then yes, you can order uncontested scrums. Before that, something that you can try is to make sure that the stronger team has all their I's dotted, all their T's crossed, all their P's and Q's in order. If they are 100% perfect and they're still just murdering this other team, then yes, go to uncontested for safety purposes. But chances are no strong team is 100% perfect. At some point, they just kind of become bullies. And so if you can keep them honest, it can take some off of the heat off of what they're doing. But I will let Dr. Shepard speak.
Kahlil, my wife's laughing when you calling me Dr. Shepard. Anyway, yeah, so 2 points. One is that you also want to take into account the context. So if the dominant scrum is not putting in the ball, of course they're going to try and get the ball. If the dominant scrum goes and puts in the ball and they want to milk a penalty, you know that they're probably not doing something legal there because it's the dominant scrum, so they shouldn't be moving backwards or collapsing the scrum. But generally speaking, obviously the team that has the ball doesn't want to make a mistake or whatever. So sort of knowing whether there's as the play goes on, there's one dominant scrum or not, that could help give you context for whoever's putting the ball in. But for high school, I mean, for most of the sort of younger leagues, they can't push more than a yard anyway. So, that minimizes the dominance aspect. And then, of course, as Kahlil said, if there is any danger, then definitely, just have an uncontested scrum. But you don't want to, you want to reward dominance because that's part of the game, right? So that's something that that team is good at. And if you take that away from them, that's not really that fair. So as long as there's no danger, continue sort of to monitor things.
Well, I was even going to say just another point to look out for. Not saying every team does it, but if like a dominant team does have a cadence going through, paying attention to how they're like moving, it's just something else to look for. And like watching how they push, because if they're good, they're going to be together, and if they're loud and that cadence, it kind of, I guess, just gives you another point to pay attention to make sure, yeah, they're pushing through the force and correct technique, not necessarily leaning up against them.
All right, good stuff. Thank you, Odie. Michael, responding to your question in the chat, the two checklists are related to the setup, not the contest. So if the lineout and scrum are uncontested, you can still set them up as if to be contested and then just go from there however they get the ball into play. You are welcome. Anything else?
All right. Thanks so much, Kahlil. That was awesome.
Welcome.
Hopefully you all found that useful. We recorded this. Nicole's going to send it out in an email for those who didn't see it. But if there's any aspect that you want to revisit, there will be a recording. Yeah. So just a reminder again, if you're not registered both for the Utah Referee Society and or USA Rugby, please do that. And also go into Ref Up and look for games. And we'll see you out there.